Anfield hosts matchday 8 of Liverpool's Champions League campaign. It's a competition they've fared pretty well in so far this season. Victory tonight would guarantee a top 8 finish and a place in the last 16. Qarabag will become the Reds' 139th different European opponent and the first from Azerbaijan. They've impressed many this term and are looking to confirm a place in the playoff round. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff and we'll have live audio commentary of all the action on LFC TV, all red video and via our match centre. Yeah, welcome along to Anfield and to Matchday Live. We'll hear from Ray Houghton here in the studio in a little while. First though, we're heading inside where Jay Spearing is with Peter McDowell, who has the Liverpool team news. Pete.
Yeah, he's got big problems really with personnel. 8 players missing, 1 fit senior centre-back added to those problems. No Curtis Jones in the squad for Arne Slot tonight, so he has to ask those players to go again after 3 days of recovery from Bournemouth. He makes 2 changes from the team. You know about the enforced one where Joe Gomez is concerned. Ekitike comes into the starting 11, and there's also a like-for-like swap between Robertson and also Kirkes at left-back. So just to reiterate, no Curtis Jones in the squad. The 11 in full then, so it's Alisson in goal. Such a strange night here last time out in Champions League against PSV in November. Never conceded 2 goals back-to-back in European games here at Anfield, so of course the pressure on that back four tonight. Virgil van Dijk, who's played every Champions League minute this season, the sole available senior centre-back for Liverpool now. Florian Wirtz, who scored against Qarabag in the 23-24 season. So did Jeremy Frimpong, actually, over their 2-legged tie in their Bayer Leverkusen days. Szoboszlai, the key man in Marseille, just the 3rd Liverpool player to score or assist in 5 Champions League games on the bounce. He's already on 8. That was his sum tally for the entirety of last season. Then it goes McAllister, Salah, who's only 6 away now from 100 Champions League appearances. Only 1 goal in his last 7. So often been his competition. He's 2 goals away from 50, which would be a record for any African footballer of all time. Gakpo 2 away from 50 goals in all comps for Liverpool. How they could do with 1 from him tonight. Ekitike is mentioned back in, Robertson 2, and Frimpong, who's having a big impact at the moment. Longest run of games this, 5 on the bounce, only 7 across the first 28 of the season, and he's spoken already about the importance of doing well in competitions of the cups. He wants to win the FA Cup and the Champions League so badly, and Ryan Gravenberch completes the 11. So Chiesa back in the squad, really young bench, 3 first-team players there with real experience. The likes of Amara Nallo and Kieran Morrison come in as well. Jay Spearing joins us here pitchside. First reaction to that team, Jay?
I think it's probably as strong as he could possibly go, you know, with everything that's going on. Like you said, the 8 injuries. He's rolled Ryan into centre-back. For me, I think it's a good decision. I think Ouattara's been out for a long part of the season. Probably didn't expect to come on at Bournemouth so early. He's played a lot of minutes. He will be stiff after that game. You know, he will be tired. So the manager's opted for put Ryan back in there. For me as well, it probably looks at that he's expected to have a lot of the ball being at home again, to get that extra midfielder in the back line, allowing Ryan to maybe step forward and go into midfield and maybe have a bit more defensive side with Robertson, Virgil, and allowing Frimpong to go and join in. So I can see why the manager's picked that. It's a full front with Hugo coming back in as well. He's been a real bright spark in all of the decisions and the moments that Liverpool have been in the last couple of weeks, and hopefully he can kick that move and go forward tonight.
We're back at Anfield, and I know it's produced some tough moments this season, but the players that have been selected, though, they've got to invigorate the crowd tonight, haven't they? They've got to get them going early with maybe that intensity that becomes so famous for.
Yeah, listen, we need to, as a team, as a fan base, we need to try and make it as uncomfortable as possible for Qarabag tonight. I think that right from the get-go, in the warm-up, as they sing "You'll Never Walk Alone," make it as loud as they possibly can. But then the players need to make it comfortable as well. They need to get in their faces and let them know that they're in for a real important game. Liverpool just have to go and win the game. It's all in our hands. We're going to concentrate solely on what it's all about for us. We can't worry about what's going to affect maybe elsewhere. But Liverpool have got, for me, better players in the nice way possible than Qarabag, and we have to go out and show that, and we have to get the result tonight.
Yeah, let's take a look at the table. Actually in 4th, and as Jay mentioned, there in our hands, 15 points, goal difference of 6. That's what you want at any European tie, particularly here at Anfield. Go and seize control, go and win the game.
Yeah, you need to, and you know, people were questioning the last couple of games at Anfield, you know, our form, And okay, yeah, listen, we should be making Anfield a fortress. However, things have just turned out a little bit differently than we expected. But Liverpool tonight, it's all down to us. We need to get that atmosphere going, we need to get the tempo going, and then we need to control the game right from the off, and try and play forward and create chances, because if I look at it as a whole, I think Liverpool, the concern hasn't been creating chances or creating opportunities. Okay, we're maybe not being as clinical as we'd like to be. You know, we're looking at it now where our foundation needs to be built off clean sheets and, you know, and allowing our attackers to go and score goals and maybe scoring one. If you look back to last year when, you know, Liverpool won the title, a lot of our games, or maybe half of our games, when we finished 1-0,
yeah.
You know, that clean sheet was the basis of what we started from, and then we allowed our attacking players to express themselves, knowing that we were going to create chances, and that's something that Liverpool have to do tonight, build off a clean sheet, and I'm sure that we'll go on and score goals.
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it? It's something that Arne Slot has spoken about in his preview to this game. They have to improve in both boxes. Let's hear a bit more detail on what he's had to say in the lead up to the game this week. He's been in conversation with Becky Davis.
Arne, a few days on from what was obviously a frustrating night against Bournemouth, the reaction to a setback is always really important, isn't it? So how do you make sure that the lads obviously move on quickly whilst taking the lessons from the game at the same time?
No, as everybody noticed and knows, we've had a lot of setbacks this season. So this wasn't the first one, and from all the other setbacks, players always showed mentality games afterwards, because I think as much as we don't like many of our results, in almost all the games we've played, we've been very competitive, worked really hard. And these players that are playing for us now need to play a lot of minutes with setbacks, with disappointments. And usually you see when that happens, the stress comes, there's a lot of stress and players get injured. But I can only give a lot of credit to my players, that apart from the long-term injuries, the players try to do everything to stay fit, and they, in my opinion, are competitive in every single game they've played this season, knowing how much load they have and how many minutes they have to play.
Anfield, under the lights, Champions League feels like a good place to bounce back, if you like. What are you looking for in terms of the result is obvious, but in terms of the performance, what do you want to see from the players?
Now, I would like us to do in between the boxes almost everything the same as we've done throughout this whole season, but we have to improve in both boxes. So the amount of box entries we have, the amount of times we are in promising positions compared to the amount of times our opponents are in those positions, there's an enormous gap between that. Unfortunately, teams can score just as many goals or more goals than us from the limited opportunities they have. So that tells us something about how we defend in our box, but it tells us also something how much we have to improve in the opposition's box. And if we can improve in those two boxes, there's a lot to play for this team. But if we don't, we will keep struggling till the end of the season. So yeah, it's obvious where we have to improve for us. And as you said, under the lights with the fans behind us, it's going to be an evening to look forward to.
And it is as well a competition that's given you some of the most outstanding performances of the season so far. You look at the Real Madrid game, of course, Inter Milan, Marseille only last week. So performances like that, the blueprint of what you need to look at going forward.
Yeah, definitely. The last two seasons have been a lot of great games here at home. Maybe with one exception, that was PSV Eindhoven when we talk about the Champions League. And so yeah, this is another one to look forward to. It's an important game for us, where we, of course, as we've always got, and this club has always shown, need the support of the fans. What I found really special at this club last season is that players that weren't that impactful in the success this club has had, they were probably the ones where they got the most support. And that is special, I think, because usually the ones that are very special in the results or have performed so well for you get most support, but also to support the ones that are maybe struggling or is very nice to see. But I think at this moment of time, it's a moment where the players that have done so much for the club in recent years, they maybe need some support in this moment of time, and it would be great if they get that support before the game, but definitely during the game tomorrow night.
It's obviously in your hands as well to get that top 8 finish, which would eliminate the need for those playoff games. Nobody wants more games in an already packed schedule, so that's, of course, the objective.
No, that's true. But if we had to do it last season, I wouldn't be that bothered because we had so many players available and we could have played probably 6 games a week. Now, with a few long-term injuries and some other issues, we don't have as many players available. So now it would definitely be good for us to skip the knockout round. But we face a team that's already on 10 points. It's probably not the name like Real Madrid or these names were, but 10 points in the Champions League, getting a draw against Chelsea and the wins they've got should tell anyone that we could not for 1 second underestimate the team. And our players are aware of that. And the fans, hopefully, after this, are aware of that as well. So we need the great atmosphere, as there is always under the lights here at Anfield.
Yeah, as fascinating as ever, Arne Slot admitting that challenge, Jay, that they've maybe not been good enough in both boxes. So with them prioritising the defensive box maybe in that unbeaten run, is there an argument to say now it's maybe the priority at the other end? They need to start scoring goals first and foremost.
Yeah, I think I agree with the manager. I think, you know, how he's saying it. For me, the fundamentals from them 13 games and that run. Okay, we conceded a couple of goals, but, you know, if you can build yourself off a foundation of keeping clean sheets, and when I talk about clean sheets, I'm not just talking about the goalkeeper in the back four. You know, I'm talking about the whole team as a collective. You know, the first line of defence is your attackers. You know, the whole team have got to work together to try and keep that clean sheet. If you do that, I think we give our attacking players the ability that they've got, you know, the quality that they've got. We were always going to create chances and we're going to get opportunities to score goals. Okay, have we been as clinical as we'd like to be? Probably not. But, you know, we can always still improve on that, and we can, you know, chances will fall. But keeping clean sheets as a team, for me, would be the main fundamental that I would go after.
He's also pointed out, and as good as they've been, Liverpool fans here, historically, sometimes the players need a little bit of help. And as a player, I imagine, when you can feel the temperature turn a little bit, you can feel it out there, can you?
Yeah, listen, this crowd, in the years that I've been a player but also a fan and come to the games, it can be the best in the world by a mile, by an absolute country mile. Once they get behind the team, the atmosphere in that pitch, it's hard to hear someone talking next to you. Never mind, you know, the manager shouting a bit of information on. Okay, listen, there are times when it might go quiet and the players will feel that. They'll feel it to a point where they feel as if they need to pick the fans back up to give them something to cheer about. Maybe that's a nice pass forward, maybe that's a shot, maybe it's a tackle or anything. You know, some small thing can get this crowd going again. Liverpool, as a collective tonight, for me, as a fan base and as a team, have to go right from the off. Right, like I said before, it has to kick right from the first second. They have to get the crowd behind them, give them something to cheer, and once they have something to cheer, they'll back you all night long.
The one thing you notice with the training footage that we've seen this week is that the players looked in good spirits, and that is the job of the coaching staff, the managers, the leaders in the team. That, you know, it's not all doom and gloom, boys. We're probably just a few moments away from this really turning in our favour again. Yeah, do you know what? Football is a game of incredibly fine margins, and Liverpool are finding that out at the minute. And you know, we're having our ups and we're having our downs, and you know, we're getting punished in moments that probably last season we would get punished for. Maybe we're not being as clinical as we would like to be, but you know, it can flip on its head and we can go, hopefully, fingers crossed, go and win the game comfortably tonight. Liverpool can just concentrate on themselves and hopefully coming out of it in a positive and getting the result that we need. He also mentioned in there that you know, Qarabag are one that he'll have poured over, and I know sometimes you're part of these tactical meetings, but no team as big as Liverpool ever underestimate an opposition. They've had good results, they've got 10 points, they've got a sneaking suspicion with a point here tonight they could sneak into that playoff. Yeah, listen, and that's exactly that. Liverpool can't underestimate them. They have to treat them with the utter respect and act as if it's one of the biggest teams in the world that they're playing against. You know, they're in the Champions League for a reason. They're not here just to take part. You know, they want to showcase themselves on the highest stage and the best stage, and no better place than Anfield to do that. So Liverpool have to be switched on from the off. They have to show them a huge amount of respect, but then Liverpool have to take control of the game early and show them, listen, we are Liverpool Football Club, we've come here, we've got our job to do, and it's about us tonight. Just a quick one, Jay, as well on that bench tonight. I mentioned the fact that there's a little bit of inexperience in there, but you've been there yourself as a young player to be part of nights like this at Anfield. They'll be riddled with excitement, won't they, the players involved? Yeah, they'll be hoping that Liverpool race to a 3-0 lead like I did when obviously the Real Madrid night. That's exactly what they'll be hoping for. But listen, it's an unbelievable experience. What a night for them to be involved in, absolutely all of them.
fingers crossed the club, the team do well and we do find ourselves ahead, that one or two maybe may get an appearance, because it'll be a night that will live them for the rest of their lives, just like the ones that have done for me.
It was a gorgeous day on Merseyside today, but we hope we got the heaters on up there in that box. Jay's going to join you very soon, but in between we're going to run the rule over that Qarabag side and see what kind of threat they might be able to offer Liverpool here at Anfield tonight.
Thank you, gents. Yeah, it wouldn't be a Champions League night here at Anfield if that game against Real Madrid that Jay featured in didn't get a mention. It just gets dropped in there. Ray, great to have you with us once again for another huge night here on Merseyside. I just wonder how big this match is in the overall context of the season. Yes, we want to win, get through in this competition, but given what happened at the weekend, what it means for giving everyone a lift and reminding people that there's plenty still to come ahead of us.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that every game that Liverpool are involved in, everyone's questioning when things go right or wrong. They always want the answers. Why did you play so great? Why did you play so poorly? And tonight is obviously a massive game because Liverpool can get into the top 8, and that's less games in the Champions League. And that's where you want to be as a professional football side. I don't think it's as gloomy as people have made out. Yeah, look, I understand the defeat against Bournemouth at the weekend wasn't great, but it came off the back of 13 matches unbeaten, 7 wins, 6 draws. Watched the game against Marseille. I thought Liverpool played very well, for an away performance, excellent. Game before that in the Champions League, beat Inter Milan, a team that Liverpool frustrated in many respects, hardly had a chance in the game. And we don't give them enough credit for matches like that. We come back to the last one, which was Bournemouth, and everything's not great within the side. Yeah, we're giving away goals at the moment, but this is a team that's in transition. And anyone who doesn't understand, I'm not quite sure why. Because yes, we won the league last season, but you look at the personnel that left the club and the players that have come in. That's why it's in transition. We're changing the system that we were playing. Last season we played with 2 out-and-out wingers, 1 centre forward, played in quickly from defence into attack, got in behind the opposition. With personnel we've now got, we don't play that way. We're now a team that gets the ball, continuity players, play it in, get it back, play it in, get it back. We allow the opposition to get back into the defensive positions, and then we're just finding a little bit of a struggle at the moment to open them up. But I think watching even the game last week against Marseille, I think in the final third, particularly in the first half, picking out the wrong options. That's the only reason why we aren't getting more goals at the moment, and even more clinical in matches, is simply that. Not picking out the right ball at the right time, maybe going for something that's a little bit harder rather than the easier ball and the one that's more constructive, that's going to lead to opportunities. But tonight, the players should go out there with freedom. The form in this competition with the 5 wins out of 7, I think it's been very, very good. Yeah, Galatasaray away, we didn't play well. PSV at home, yes, really poor performances. But I mentioned the 2 games recently against Inter Milan, Marseille. You can go through the others that they played in as well, played very well and in matches as well. So overall in this competition, I think it's been really good. I don't think it's quite as bad as people are making out. Yeah, of course you want to be higher in the league. I understand the frustration of the fans, that they want to see more goals and they want to see the team playing a bit better as far as creating opportunities or defending better. I get it, but it'll evolve as time goes on, in my opinion.
That could just be your sunny disposition. They're just naturally so upbeat. If we bring up the Champions League table once again, just remind people of how things sit. Liverpool up to 4th at the moment, the highest position in the standings so far this season. A win tonight guarantees them a top 4 place. They could, in theory, finish 3rd. What that brings with it is then, yes, less games. You don't have to play that additional qualifying round, but it also means you get home second legs in the next 2 rounds, and that could be a big thing. It's tended to benefit us in the past, has it not? And that will be 2 factors that will play into the thoughts of the player and the manager tonight.
Well, when you look at the list there, and with the teams that are up in the top 8 and the top 16, 24, and compare that to last season when they didn't really understand what this league was about.
But they tweaked it slightly now to make it more rewarding if you finish higher.
Yeah, but I think also the teams have learned from last season. They learned, the ones that struggled early on and then had to come with a really late run, virtually winning the last 3-4 games to get into the top positions, to get through to the last 16. They've learned this season. I think I wasn't in favour of it initially. I actually think there've been a lot of really good games this season. I've really enjoyed the format and what I've seen of it so far. And it's only right, if you get into the top 8, that you should have the home matches that you can get. You still have some tough teams that you're going to play against. I don't think there's any question about that. But you've got to get there, and that's what Liverpool have done so far, you know, with the 5 wins that they've had. Get another one tonight, and you know, they're in a very strong position.
Going into the games tonight, 32 of the 36 teams involved still had something to play for. Does that just reinforce the argument that the new format is working, it is making more meaningful fixtures?
I think it's more enjoyable. You know, I've watched a lot of good games this season, and you didn't always get that in the Champions League. When there was a group of 4, there might have been the top 2 teams were so far ahead of the other 2. Some of the matches late on were not competitive. You know, there was no real point to it. Whereas you just mentioned there, 32 of the 36 teams are still in with a chance of making it into the top 24, and that's good for the game. You want that. You want that competition. You want teams from all over Europe being involved in it, but at a competitive level. You know, and they're just not there to make up the numbers, as has been the case in previous campaigns in the Champions League. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not for everyone, of course, I understand that, but you want to see good matches, you want to see the best teams, and I think we've seen it this season.
You mentioned some of the good results we've had in Europe. The problem with those good results, it then makes it perhaps even less palatable when they return to domestic action and don't win against Burnley, Leeds, Sunderland, Bournemouth at the weekend. The latest one of these games was that game down at the Vitality. What did you make of why we slipped up on the South Coast?
I think the intensity wasn't quite there. Watching the Marseille game, I thought that was, you know, the way that they pressed high up the pitch, 1 second balls. I mean, in fairness, Marseille played into Liverpool's hands, tried to play out from the back. The Liverpool starting positions I thought was very, very good. But it's just little incidents like this, you know, where, you know, balls played in behind when you're caught the wrong side, you allow the player to get inside of you, which shouldn't really happen, and just the basic mistakes that proved very, very costly. You know, and then Virgil with a flicked header there to get the scoreline back, and obviously Dom's in great form at the moment. That fantastic finish, wasn't it? You know, he scored one against Marseille when he put it under the wall when they didn't have anyone there protecting it. But this, I think, just happened too many times to Liverpool this season. I go back to Crystal Palace away, 1-1. You know, Palace with a better side, but Liverpool worked their way back into it in the second half. Eddie Nketiah gets a late goal to win it. Chelsea away, you know, same thing. We get it back to 1-1, and then we can see the goal.
In the season, you spoke about there are games when you have to accept that not losing a game is not a bad result. Does that fall into that category? The same as Palace, the same as Chelsea. Look, you made it back to 2-2. Let's just see it out and go home with it.
Yeah, I mean. Look, last season we won the league because we went away. Brentford was one of the games that you looked at. You know, went to Brentford last season and brought in some substitutes and they changed the game around because Liverpool went for it. There is occasions when you're not playing as well, when you've just got to accept that a draw is not a bad result and you take it on to the next game. What you don't want to do is to be in a run of losing matches, as we were at that particular time. You know, we're losing game after game and everyone start questioning the tactics and what the players are doing defensively. Are you working on a daily basis? And it's just something that you have to get out of as quickly as possible. And we've done that. You just mentioned the unbeaten 13 matches that Liverpool were on until the defeat at the weekend to Bournemouth. So listen, when you have a setback, it's what you do next, and it's what the players do tonight in this particular game. Yes, they've had to change the team around because of injuries of one thing and another within the starting 11, but I still expect the Liverpool players, whoever's playing and whoever the manager puts in, to be ultra competitive. You know, once you get your opportunity, you've got the shirt, you're in charge of the shirt, go out there and show what you can do.
OK, well, it's an 8 o'clock kick-off here at Anfield this evening. Steve Hunter and Neil Miller will be on commentary duty for us tonight with commentary of all tonight's action. And we can join up with Steve now, who's been looking into plenty of facts and figures ahead of this one. Steve.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Another Champions League night under the lights at Anfield. These are special, aren't they? That win over Real Madrid here was certainly got to be the highlight of this season so far, hasn't it? We played really well that night. If it wasn't for Courtois, could have scored 4 or 5 in the end, couldn't we? It tells the tale, really. But we've done well in this Champions League after that PSV defeat to get back into this good position now where we know a win tonight will ensure we don't have to play a playoff and go right through to the knockout stages. Right then, well, tonight Qarabag of Azerbaijan will now hold a record, by the way. It's the furthest distance travelled by a team playing at Anfield. It's a trip they've travelled here to Liverpool, 2,583 miles. Wow. The previous long-distance traveller to Anfield, well, Anzi Makatkala back in October 2012, and we can see the goal now. Liverpool won the game 1-0, and it was Stuart Downing who was signed by Sir Kenny Dalglish and helped us win the League Cup final at Wembley, of course, Stuart Downing. And strangely enough, he ended up playing left-back, didn't he, under Brendan Rodgers. I don't think he was that comfortable there, but Stuart Downing scored the only goal of that game, as we've seen there. And one of the Liverpool players involved in the action tonight is Dominik Szoboszlai, of course, who has arguably been our player of the season. He has, hasn't he? Let's be honest about that. And tonight he could become the 6th Liverpool player, right, to score in 4 successive European games for the club. And let's take a look at our Hungarian aces' goals in the Champions League for Liverpool so far. It started off with that one here against PSV Eindhoven, of course. I think the crucial one when we got back on track in this group was the San Siro, Inter Milan away. There was no Mo Salah, and Dominik Szoboszlai took the authority and it slotted home a really late penalty in that game. That was such a big goal for us, wasn't it? And then that wonderful free kick last week in Marseille when he fooled everybody in a Steven Gerrard style free kick, drilling it under the wall, didn't he? Absolutely brilliant. Well, our final clip today, 23 carat gold, Jamie Carragher. He's turned 48 and he scored for Liverpool, you know, in the Champions League. It's a qualifier after Istanbul. Remember, we had to play those mad qualifiers against teams like TNS, but we played in Kaunas back in July 2005 and it came from a corner. Classic Carragher goal, and would you believe that was Carragher's first goal in 6.5 years at Liverpool. Of course, he scored on his Anfield debut against Aston Villa at the Cop End. So we've brought back some rather nice memories in that one. Hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully some goals tonight. There's a few young Liverpool fans who are getting the chance to come tonight. We're speaking with a few of them with the dads behind, and they're really excited for this one. And they're telling me Ekitike's going to score. I believe them. Mark, it's all yours.
Thank you, Steve. Stay warm. OK, time now for us to say farewell to those of you watching us on social media. If you do want to continue watching the build-up, though, and aren't yet a subscriber to LFC TV or Red Video, you can find out details of how to join us online at liverpoolfc.com/watch. Still to come before kick-off, we'll hear from Jeremy Frimpong, and as mentioned, Steve Hunter and Neil Mellor will be on commentary duty at 8, and then Jake Spearing will be with Ray and myself after the game to chat over all the key talking points and bring you some interviews from the Reds dressing room. That post-match show will also be available to listen to later tonight in the Reaction podcast. The full match replay goes out at midnight as well, and there's more detailed analysis of tonight's game with Neil once again in the review show.